Good morning,
Good,
everyone. Good morning, Jennnifer.
good morning.
I am delighted to have Jennnifer Aponte here as part of our Associa, Florida branch spotlight. Jennnifer is our transition manager and a key member of our team. So, welcome, Jennnifer. Thank you for taking the time to be here this morning. Jennnifer, how long have you been with Associa?
I have been with Associa now for 4 years.
That's great. We are lucky to have you. So, can you explain what a transition coordinator does and why this role is vital during a community association's management change?
Well, first to start off, I would have to say that a transition coordinator has to ensure that nothing falls through the cracks and that the association remains functional through the period of the transitioning.
That's important. That's a very delicate moment. What qualifications or experience prepared you for this role, and how do they benefit the associations you work with?
I would have to say I have now been in property management for over 15 years. So I would say the experience and dealing with different properties, different expectations, and having a great customer service background is what makes me successful in this position.
Outstanding. I can attest to that. So let's talk about the transition process a little bit. What are the key steps involved in transitioning a new community to our management company?
I would say the first thing that I think is a successful point is, once you receive the management agreement, going over that agreement, knowing what the expectations are from the board, as well as communication in the beginning of the transition and all the way to the end of the transition and so far after is so important because it shows that the relationship between Associa and the new company coming in is so strong and how and a relationship is built off of that on how strong the community and the communication is between both parties.
How do you ensure that the transition process really minimizes the disruption for the community and the board members?
Well, first I would say is the number one key is supporting the board through this process, making sure that they have all the information they need to have a successful transition in, and then also making sure that early on through the transition in process, everything is clear and communicated. And, we have a detailed transition in. It starts from the beginning.
Okay, so it's beginning to end.
That is
Communication,
correct.
you keep coming back to that. What are some of the common challenges that you face during a transition, and how do you deal with them?
I would say one of the most challenges that we do come across is sometimes is incomplete or disorganized association documents, and as well as residents' concerns and miscommunication. And then how do you deal with that? So when I do, I don't get a response from prior management or records are not organized the proper way. What I try to do is work with prior management, explain to them how important it is for us to have these documents, and also, once again, communicate with the board, make sure that they're understanding that we are not receiving documents or documents are not complete, and then also explain to the board that if we got to reconstruct documents, how do we do that? Basically, just explaining to them and keeping them informed on what needs to happen as far as the residents' concerns and miscommunication is just making sure that the residents are aware what's going on, making sure that they understand that this is a process, and making sure that we do our commitment as the new property management company to make sure that we make them feel confident in us that we are going to get through this as a team and together.
It's a joint effort for sure, and
Correct.
at the end of the day, these documents belong to the association. They don't belong to the prior management or anything.
Correct.
They are property of the community.
That is correct.
Okay. What advice would you give to community association boards that are preparing for a management transition?
Um, I would tell them to start planning early. Communicate transparently and often with the board. Let them know how the transition process works. Organize and review their documents with them. Also, let them know early on what documents are necessary for us to start the transition in and to complete the transition in. Clarify their financials matters. Making sure that we're on the same page with their financial matters, and stay engaged with your board. It's so important. Once again, we go back to that communication, right? But that shows a partnership. When you show engagement through this whole process, we are headed for a road of success.
How do you collaborate with boards to make sure that their often unique expectations are being met?
I think a lot of the times there are challenges that people or companies might have. And one of these challenges is sometimes we need to sit back and listen. We need to listen to the board, listen to what their expectations are, understand their expectation, and customize their management plan. Know what they want. Build a partnership. You have to build that partnership. And also it's important sometimes, we get new board members and they need help too, right? Because they don't understand maybe the process. Educating them, giving them education, guidance on becoming a board member or what that entails. And that's how I would collaborate with the board.
That makes perfect sense. And every board is different, and it's really a shame that some companies have a one size fits all approach to very differing board needs. I'm really glad to hear you say that. Can you share a success story where a well-managed transition significantly improved a community's operations?
When a community comes in and they have all their documents, right? And we built that partnership. Um, the relationship right from the beginning becomes successful, right? So I would say with my last community that has transitioned in, having that clear, open, listening approach to their community, understanding what that community needed, making sure that residents were aware of the process and what was going to happen in an upcoming month, giving them all the information they needed to make their payment on time, um, having an open house. Um, the board was just so pleased with the partnership from the beginning to the end of the transition period until it was handed over to the community manager. So I think the success is not only with Associa, but us having a partnership with that community. And when that happens, that's just a big success for myself because that means that job well done, right? And that's what I
Yeah.
look forward to. I live off of making sure that the job is well done, not only for myself, but for the customer, because I'm a customer myself. So,
That's so satisfying when the process works. Um,
correct, correct.
it is. Speaking of that and the process and it working, if a community's hesitant about switching management companies, what would you say to reassure them about the process?
Well, first, I would explain to them detailed and carefully the transition process from A to Z. I would also give them the knowledge of what might take place during the transition, and contacting prior management, maybe not receiving documents. And then I will also listen to their concerns, right? Because this is about them and them, concerned about switching management companies. So I would have to, number one thing is listen to their concerns and communicate my success stories and how other communities have felt that way in the past, and share with them how we got through those that little hesitant time, and just give them the success story and tell them, hey, you're working with Jennnifer, we're going to get through this. And you're working with
I love
Associa.
the attitude.
I
That's
mean,
terrific.
if I've been here for 4 years, then I would have to say, listen, there's something about Associa that I like, and if I could stay with Associa till I retire, this is my home. So I want to make it their home as well.
And we're glad to have you, Jennnifer. What are, would you say, the top three things a board should look at for in a management company to ensure a smooth transition?
I would say one of them would be clear communication and transparency. Experience, a company that is experienced with the transition process, making sure they know what the ups and downs are through the process so they can communicate that with the board. Also, making sure that, you're organized for the onboarding process. Organization is so important through this process, and that can go from documents to making sure you follow up with the board. And the biggest thing about this is, like I always say, is communication. Communication is the key in all aspects of this process. Board, prior management company, transitioning team, new management, residents. I just can't stress how important that is.
Jennnifer, you said a mouthful. That is so important. And that relationship with the board, starting with after the moment that they sign and come on board, and I'm talking to you and sending you stuff and saying, do your thing, Jen, because you do so well with it.
Well, I
Um,
appreciate it, but I also think it comes from that, you have to love what you do. You have to love customer service. You have to understand um, the position that you're in and what service you provide. And that's something that Associa makes sure that we all understand when we do become part of the Associa's team, is understanding what we need to provide to our client, the communication to our client, and just making sure that, we give our client the higher expectations that they deserve.
Jennnifer, thank you for sharing your expertise with us this morning.
You are welcome.
This is a great branch spotlight, and we're lucky to have you. Thank you again.
You're
And
welcome.
if
It's my pleasure.
anyone is, when everyone is ready to make that transition, you're going to meet Jennnifer, and I hope that happens soon. Thanks again,
Yes.
Jennnifer.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Have a nice day.
You too. Bye bye.